Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where professionals and entrepreneurs publish to grow their businesses and to leave a legacy. We're doing a series of business spotlights on remarkable people, places, and things and businesses across the country and even in your town. Joining me on this segment is Julie Lineberger. She's the founder and president of Wheelpad L3C. Julie, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Please tell us, Julie, a little bit about Wheelpad L3C and the types of folks that you help.
Thank you. Well, Wheelpad provides personal accessible dwellings, PAD, for people to live, work, and play where they want to. We believe in a very inclusive world where people that have spinal cord injuries or other mobility issues should be able to live how and where they want. And we provide a variety of models. They're built in a factory, and we deliver them across the country. Our most popular one is called an ad pad. It's for people with mobility issues, and we take it to someone's house, and we build about a 5-foot connector, and within 2 weeks, a family can have an accessible bedroom and bathroom for their loved one that connects to their house through a back door or a window. We work with their contractor to connect the house. Then through the pad, there's a ramp, and the caregivers can come through that ramp without going through the entire house. And it's really exciting. We started off marketing to people with spinal cord injuries because our godson became quadriplegic shortly before his 26th birthday. And when he was looking for an accessible place to rent in Portland, Oregon, of all places, he couldn't find one where a caregiver could help him in the shower. Eventually, he did get into his own place and he bought a home, and he called us his godparents because our first business is an architectural practice called Blind Sync Architecture, and said, "Hey, I bought this house now. Can you help me make it universally accessible?" Which we did. And in that process, my husband, who's one of those inventive types, said, "Hey, Riley, what if there had been an accessible bedroom and bathroom that we could have attached to your mom's house or your brother's house? So you wouldn't have had to have been isolated like he was in a motel room, an accessible motel room, for 9 months until he found a place." So that's kind of how we started, and that gives you an inkling of how we help.
So it sounds really unique. This sounds different. So tell me a little bit more, because you mentioned about additions. Are these like additions that are built and created? This is something special that you create that adds onto a home. Please explain more.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. And it is built for people with mobility issues. There is a hoist track in every pad that we build, whether it's an ad pad, and I'll tell you a little bit about the other pads we have available as well. And it's all built to exceed ADA standards. We work with AARP. What's been interesting is through this COVID time, like I said, people who we initially marketed to were all spinal cord injury people. But with COVID, we've had numerous people say, "Hey, how quickly can you get an ad pad to my house so I can bring my mother, my mother-in-law, my father, my son out of the nursing home where he is?" And we can do that within a couple weeks, depending on the permitting issues of each town. So yes, it's designed. It's 200 square feet. It's an accessible bedroom and bathroom. And because it was designed for our godson in mind, who was young, and it's like we say, the coolest room in the house. It doesn't look like a hospital room. It looks like a house that you'd want, a room in a house that you'd want to hang out in. But through the connector, you can still roll in for family activities, for dinner, for this, for that. It's built as much as possible. We're in Vermont, so it's highly insulated, built with structurally insulated panels, and it looks cool. It's great. From that, there was one man who had ALS. He was a Vietnam vet, so we do have a program that we use for veterans. they can partake of the specially adapted housing grant, which this man did. And he said, I really like the concept. I don't want to cut up my craftsman style home, but I'm losing my legs. I still want to sleep next to my wife because AdPad can fit a double bed or a hospital bed, but he wanted a queen size bed. So for Edmund Little, we created what we call the XL pad. The ad pads are built on a chassis so that what our intent was is that any Vietnam veteran that had a friend with say a F-350 engine could just come to our facility and truck it home. So it meets all AOT guidelines. With the XL pad that, like I said, can fit a queen size bed, but it has all the same amenities as an ad pad, the hoist track, the accessible shower, etc. You have to bring it in and lift it on to the place with a crane. But it did meet the requirements. It fit his queen size bed. So for the rest of his life that he had, he was able to be beside his wife. And then we have a resale program for all of our pads. And so I called Anna a few months after, I guess it was about 9 months after Edmund died. And I said, okay, Anna, do you want to get rid of your pad? There are, oh, no, 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 she said. She's come to love her XL pad, the light that's in it. She said, this is where I feel closest to Edmund. No, I'm keeping it. My family, when they visit, can be in the other part of the house. So we have another model that is called the pad, which is, as far as we can see, the first accessible tiny house. Most tiny houses, you're sleeping up in the loft, but if you're using a wheelchair, you can't get up to a loft. So we are just rolling that out now, again, with all the same design, unique features that the other pads have.
It sounds like at the end of the day, this is extra square footage in the house. This is like a new addition. First and foremost, Julie, you mentioned you're in Vermont. Can you serve clients across the country, or is this just local for you? Because you also mentioned
No,
Portland, Oregon.
yes, we do across the country. We have right now 3 manufacturers, one in Vermont, one in Massachusetts, and one in Dallas, Texas, and we're about to add another one in Oregon. So we don't charge for delivery at this point. Because we want people to use this. I did a TEDx a while ago. It was entitled Wheelpad, Keeping Families Together. So our mission is to keep families together and not to have, which happens in so many injured service members cases, they're at Walter Reed or some other institution solely because their home isn't accessible. We want families to be together. And we've been able to do that. And so, yes, we want to help as many people as possible, which is also why we incorporated as a L3C, which is a low income limited liability company. It's a hybrid between a for-profit and a nonprofit. And we're just working as hard as we can to, yes, pay our manufacturers and our staff living wages, but keep the cost as affordable as possible for as many people as possible.
So before the Wheelpad solution, what options were out there? What were people doing to solve the challenges for disabled folks?
That's the best question ever. Thank you. What people were doing were spending 6 months, 6 to 9 months to hire a contractor, sometimes an architect, sometimes just a designer or a builder to make either an addition on their home, but that takes a long time and a lot of decisions. And when you're dealing with, say, a recent spinal cord injury or someone in a nursing home for COVID that you want them out, that takes an awful long time. Some people would just modify a bedroom or a bathroom. But again, that takes an awful lot of time, a lot of head decision making and that sort of thing. So we wanted to make it as easy as possible. Unfortunately, the other alternatives were people were staying in nursing homes and rehab facilities, not because they needed all that work could have been done outpatient, but because their home wasn't accessible and people didn't know what to do, so they left it that way. Another thing that people did was they'd bring their loved one into their living room in the hospital bed, which really can wreak havoc on a marriage or a family in general. and for the person who is needing help. You want to have a place that's your own, that you don't feel like you're interrupting your entire family. You want your privacy, you want your dignity, and families need their space. So there were all kinds of things that people do. It is estimated that only 7% of families who need accessibility within their homes have accessible homes. So the rest are making do in sometimes unimaginable ways.
This sounds like a really valuable innovation. Julie, tell us, you told us a little bit about the evolution into Wheelpad. Tell me your inspiration. What got you started? Tell me more about your discovery and
Yeah.
the creation of Wheelpad.
Well, like I said, we have an architectural practice called line sync architecture. And just because of our past and who we are, we're very inclusive. We are in the second widest state of the nation, yet we have well, it's really important to us to have diversity and inclusion in our business. And even in our little lily white state, we find people to come work here because with the diversity of thought, that makes our designs better. And in doing that, we've had a number of people with varying abilities work for us. So and we've done a lot of ADA jobs, redoing courthouses to meet ADA standards, for example, and things like that. So when our godson came home to his home mountain for the X Games, and he was this hotshot photographer, would follow extreme sports people around, and he was doing a documentary on Simon Dumont, who that year, this was 2010, won the X Games. And there was a celebration, and there was an accident in the pool. To this day, no one says what happened. They're a bunch of buddies, but Riley was left basically with this movement and this movement. Since then, he's worked really hard and improved. But what happened was he was supposed to come to brunch at our house, and his father called and said, "Oh, Riley and I aren't going to make it." And we're like, "Oh, what happened?" "Meet us at the hospital." So through that process of working with Riley and his parents, just keeping him up and, yes, he has a reason to live. Then when he was ready to move into a home, that we could help him make universally accessible, Riley, Joseph, and I, after Joseph had this idea, along with our daughter and a friend of Riley, said, you know, this is us idea, because Joseph has ideas all the time. Oh, I could make this accessible addition. If we had it pre-made, then while Riley was in rehab, his family could have been getting ready so he could have come directly home. We all love that idea. Riley, by the way, is minority owner in the company. And we just thought, we sat around on this idea for 5 years. And then a friend of ours said, Julie, you really need to make this go. I'm doing this business plan competition. Why don't you just throw your hat in the ring? And then I thought, God, I'm kind of on the other side of 50, shall we say? What do you mean start a new business? But I tell you, the heart, just all the families that we've been working with, being able to see families together that are so thankful. Some are very short term. We had a man that had a brain injury from a motorcycle accident, to long term people. Just being able to keep our goal of keeping families together. It's just fantastic. And Riley, I love the story about Riley because he was working with this acupuncturist. His mother found an acupuncturist that would come to his home. And after about, maybe 9 months of working with Riley, Andrea came to Riley and said, Riley, I'm sorry, but I can't be your physician anymore. And Riley, who by then had fallen head over heels in love, but wasn't going to say a word because this was his health, she said, well, I've fallen in love with you. So here we are, a few years later. Riley and Andrea now have a business called Poorhouse Love Lab, where they talk a lot about and give examples of what it's like to be an interabled couple. And there are numerous interabled couples around the world. And especially in the United States, where there is more openness to accessibility, and also where medical advances are happening. So more and more people, like if Riley had his accident 5 years earlier, he wouldn't have been alive. So this is a growing need for our country, who in fits and starts is becoming more inclusive.
Wow, that is a touching story.
Not a great story. And
That's
they're
terrific.
wonderful people.
Julie, tell us, for our listeners out there who can really see the innovation and the value with Wheelpad, how do they connect with you, learn more, and find the options, and perhaps get your help?
That would be great. We have a website, www.wheelpad.com. We also are on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and all those wonderful things. What we couldn't put on we also have a YouTube site. I think it's YouTube/C/Wheelpad. But one thing we couldn't put on our Wheelpad YouTube page, because it's proprietary to TEDx. There's TEDx Hoboken Wheelpad, Keeping Families Together. And that really gives a better sense of the Wheelpad story and the other people that we have assisted, through just doing what we enjoy doing.
Julie, I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your story and the Wheelpad story with all of my listeners out there. I wish you continued success for you, for Wheelpad, and for all of your clients.
Thank you so much. And I'll just say one more thing. If anyone wants to just talk to me directly, Julie@wheelpad.com. And that'll get you to me, and I'll give you my phone number, and I enjoy speaking with people. So thank you for this opportunity, Mark. It's good to sit back a minute and remember some of these stories and really talk about why we're doing what we're doing.
It's my pleasure. That's Julie Lineberger, founder and president of Wheelpad L3C. This segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where professionals and entrepreneurs publish to grow their businesses and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for tuning in.